Hello, everyone. You're welcome to this webinar. My name is Mr. Nweke. I'm a director at Prime Royal Hospitality Services Limited. You're welcome to this webinar. Today, we're going to be talking about getting back your hotel guests, how to handle recovery after the lockdown, and we're going to be looking at a few things that you can do to maximize your guest patronage. All right, so now, first of all, I'm going to let's talk about what are we going to learn in this webinar. What are we going to look at? The first thing we are going to do is a bit of introduction, and we are going to make quite a bit of talk about some operational changes. Now, the operational changes are just regular basic stuff, prevention against, you know, prevention and precautions you need to take, when handling this guest during this period. Now, we're also going to look at marketing opportunities, new stuff versus old stuff. We are now going to look at the techie stuff. The tech stuff is more or less where we are going to do a little bit of expatiating, right? We're going to talk about a lot of things, opportunities, what we can do in the present and in the near future in order to maximize our handling of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, we're in the techie stuff, we're going to look at a little bit of sales funnel. I'm sure many of us have heard about sales funnels before now, but we're going to look at sales funnel. We're going to look at guest touch points. Now, guest touch points are actually very important for us to maximize the guest experience. We're going to look at action plans, more like what can we do now, today, or from tomorrow that would help our retaining our guests, attracting more guests and retaining the guests. Then we're going to talk about questions and discussions. We'll look at questions and discussions from the audience, from a few other persons, from people who have sent in mails and all of that. And then we will do some case studies. I particularly want us to look at some case studies. In these case studies, we'll be looking at some hotels and what they are doing correctly and what they can improve upon. I'm sure there are probably hotels that you know, but by the time you are watching this video, it's likely that maybe possibly the hotels might have made those changes. So this is as at today, the sites we're going to be looking at, or the case studies we're going to look at, is going to be as at today. But by the time you watch this, maybe they might have made some changes. All right, so let's talk about operational changes. Operational changes are simple. The lockdown has given us the opportunity to do renovation. Now, the renovation is kind of important, right? In some cases, some hotels have been looking for an opportunity to upgrade their facilities, and they have just not found it. You need to have a little bit of space in between, so that when you start the renovation, you probably would disturb some guests, but you need to be a little strategic in your renovation. Look for the periods where you have low occupancy. That's what is supposed to be the case. But now, when everything is a little unpredictable, you just keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. So this lockdown was actually one of the best opportunities. Since we have almost nobody in the hotel, let's use the opportunity and do all of the renovation and the upgrades that we want to do. Look at the entire property from top to bottom, and depending on how much our budget is, we will now do our renovation accordingly. Now, obviously, your housekeeping routine is going to change. There's no doubt about that. Before now, what we'll just do is we would sweep the room, we clean the room, change the sheets. We don't pay so much attention to table surfaces, but now we would have to use hospital grade disinfectants to disinfect every possible surface in the room, from the remote controls to the door handles to the TVs to the tabletops to everything you can think of. Anywhere that a guest can touch would have to wipe them all down, right? with good disinfectant, and not just any disinfectant. It has to be a good disinfectant that has proven to work against the COVID-19 virus. Now, obviously, your front office routine will also change. And before I leave the housekeeping, um, some of the hotels that we have worked with at Prime Royal, what they decided to do is, if they sell a room today, if a guest checks out of a room today, they will not sell that room again for the next like 48 hours. They would, of course, they will disinfect the room, but they will not sell that room again for the next 48 hours. These are all just part of precautions that they take, in order to minimize the possibility of spread of any kind. Because if you have one case, just only one case in your hotel, we can end up shutting down the entire hotel. Now, the front office standard operating procedures also need to change. Well, while everybody is trying to do contactless front office operation, it might be difficult, especially since it requires a little bit of equipment change, a whole lot of equipment change. You get some of different hotels have adopted different SOPs, but whatever you adopt, right? You need to find a way to reduce contact as much as possible, right, between the hotel staff and the guests, right? I think the key card is probably one of the only ways you can't escape from the key card. So, but whatever works for you, right? We need to minimize contact as much as possible and disinfect as often as possible once you have some kind of cross touch. If I have a key card and I maybe program a key card and hand it off to you, we have to find a way to maybe just minimize the whole contacts as much as possible. Now, for the front office as well, some of my properties have decided to mount like a glass shield, right, at the front office. Just it hung from the ceiling, but it doesn't really get to the table surface. So you have somewhere under where you can afford to pass things through, documents, key cards, and all that. You just find a way to just mount something that kind of acts like a shield or a stop between the guests and the front office guys, right? The guys at the front office, so if you are speaking, normally they said the COVID-19 virus, the scientist tells us that the COVID-19 virus spreads by droplets coming from your mouth. So that transparent glass shield is more like stopping stopping the droplets. So if you are speaking and you're not wearing a face mask, if you are speaking, then if droplets come from your mouth, it just lands on the shield, the glass, instead of going in contact with the guest, and vice versa. If the guest is speaking, you would not have that very close contact. Now, your restaurant is also a very key revenue center. Many hotels have decided to stop dine-in service. They prefer this. They just outrightly do not do any more, sit in the restaurant and have your meals. They would rather do room service. They bring the food up to your room, or they will do delivery. They'll take the food, prepare it, send the courier guy to deliver the food to an outside person or an external guest, right? So a restaurant's outdoor service is probably another very, very strong opportunity for you to make to continue to maximize the revenue of your restaurant. Now, the bar also is probably best to do. Either you just do room service for the bar, take the party to your room, or if you have a space outside, like a very, very wide space, very large space, where the patrons can have a very, very sufficient space for social distancing, that may work probably work better. But if you don't have such space, then maybe you should just stick to rather doing room service for the guests. Now, gym has a lot of touch. Spa has a lot of touch. It's up to you, the hotel, to decide what you want to do. Do you want to take the risk of running your gym? If you want to take the risk of running your gym, your housekeepers have to be on double duty in the gym. They have to wipe down every single piece of equipment as you come and as you go, right? And if somebody wants to use the gym, they will have to give him extra hand sanitizers. Maybe you may even have to use rubber gloves if possible, or whatever you need to do. But just know that the gym has a lot of areas of contact, right? Both, as you are sweaty, you can't put face mask. You can't use a face mask while you are in the gym because it reduces your oxygen supply and it's not really very healthy for you. So as we are, breathing in and out heavily, and you are carrying out your fitness routine, the chances of you having droplets coming from your mouth is much, much, much higher. So if you are not able to handle all of that, then maybe you can just consider just shutting down your gym as well. You're just shutting down your gym. Your spa also is a very high contact area. Now, I'm not really very worried about the steam bath because your steam bath has, apart from the door handles, right? Your steam bath usually has an elevated temperature, and we know already that the virus doesn't do very well in areas where you have temperatures higher than, I think, above 60 or 80 degrees Celsius. I think it's about between 60 and 80 degrees Celsius. So once we disinfect the door handles and normal regular touch areas, I think we should be fine there. Now, halls are a little difficult to walk around as well. Now, if your hall is big enough, right, you would have to be taking the halls at maybe less than half capacity, right? If your halls can take 50 persons, you may have to, at full capacity, if your hall can take 50 persons, you may have to reduce the number of persons who can enter the hall at a time to like 20, right? Reduce it or 20 or 25 so that the chairs, the seats can be really, really, spaced out well enough so that you don't have a whole lot of close contact. And we also observe social distancing as well. Now, marketing opportunities. What kind of marketing opportunities are we going to get? The most important thing right now is once your hotel reopens, it's probably a good idea for you to send an email to all your guests. If you do not have an email list, that is not good. That's not good. But notwithstanding, if you just have only people who walk into the hotel and they try not to give as much personal information, you could have lost an opportunity there. But just in case you have an email list, now is the time for you to use your email list and send out a message to all your guests whose emails you have and tell them, okay, we are open for business, we are back for business, and all of that. You might want to not personalize the emails too much. We can't say, dear Mr. John, thank you for staying with us last time. We may not want to frame the email that way. We would want to do something like maybe just make it generic and all that. If you have to mention the guest name, you can just tell him, dear Mr. John, we are open for business, we are open back for business, and speak some other grammar and all of that, speak some other stories. Now, the good thing what an email does is that once the guest gets the information, he knows immediately that, okay, you are back in the market. And if he had previous plans before you sent that mail, he would be able to include your hotel in possible planning. Now, if maybe he wanted to just get away with his spouse, he could say, okay, this hotel is now back on board, it's now open. Maybe we can actually spend time in this hotel because maybe we'll spend time here before now. If his company wants to do some kind of an event, maybe for the halls or something, he can now include you back in his planning, right? Now, the second thing I would like to mention is a safety video. A safety video is very key. Maybe not extremely important, but it's also helpful. Now, the safety video is more like, okay, a video showing the guest and telling the guest, we are back in operation but please, we are going to take the following precautions, right? We have a new routine where we would wipe down and disinfect the room after every time a guest checks out. We would want you to help us observe social distancing as we've marked out the hallway. We would want you to have few persons in the room, few persons clustered together, and all of that. So all of those small safety precautions, they are key, and it's probably good if you put it all together in a small short video. 3 minutes is fine, but 3 minutes maybe. But the shorter you can make the video, the better it is. But you don't want to make it too short, and you don't want to make it too long. If the video exceeds 3 minutes, then you are already, shooting a music video or something. You are already shooting a documentary. If you can make it somewhere around 60 seconds to 90 seconds, that would be fair, to max 120 seconds. If it gets to 120 seconds, that's 2 minutes. It's beginning to get long. Now, you also want to update your social media activity, generate a conversation around your social media activity. All these videos I talked about, you'd want to share them on your social media handles: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter where necessary, maybe WhatsApp, but WhatsApp can be a little bit intrusive. But if you want to do WhatsApp, it's fine. But you want to get your social media activity up and running again. You want to have, start a conversation with your followers and like, okay, this is what is happening. Now we are back in business. Everything is now up and running and all of that. Now, you also want to update your OTAs. Now, during this lockdown, many OTAs had to, I'm sure you had to close out your rooms in many of the OTAs. So this is the time to go back to the OTAs and make sure your rates are updated, your availability is updated, everything is updated, because the OTAs will work with what the availabilities you send to them. And once they see that the room is closed, they may not bother sending you any referrals. But once you now go back and check updates and make sure everything is up and running, then you now open up your doors back for further referrals. Now, it's important to also do digital ads, especially when you want to attract new persons. Now, digital ads help to get leads, and it's more like put the word out and all that. Now, if a large hotel, or whether it's large or small, if your market continues to see your promotions, your ads, and all that, chances of them wanting to patronize you when something comes up is much higher than when they don't have any information and they will not be like, oh, I wonder whether this hotel is open. I'm not sure. Should we call them? Should we not call them? Should we not call them? Someone in that group, especially if they've used that hotel before, may have seen, one of your activities, one of your updates or your emails or your safety videos or your ads, your digital ads, and they'll be like, oh yes, no, I have confirmation that they're open. And everything now moves on from there. It's easy to close the transaction, to close the business. Now, opportunities in the hotel for this new period. The first one I want to talk about is food delivery. Now, one of my hotels have this thing they call office lunch. Now, office lunch is more like their lunch normally, their food normally is about 4,500, right? So office lunch is more like between the periods of 12 to 2 p.m., they would crash the price of the food price every weekday. They will crash the food price, the price of the meal from 4,000 to 4,000, 4,500 to 8,500. So it's more like I think I don't know what percentage it is, but it's a very large percentage discount. They give a discount for just that period. The idea is to target people who works in that area. Now, if your hotel is located in an area where you have a lot of offices, businesses, workers, people who want lunch on a daily basis, you might want to tap into this market and do something like an office lunch. And as an extension to the office lunch, you can even do a food delivery. Now, one of the things we recommended that we are currently working on in one of our properties is one of our properties that is currently doing this is that they run ads from 8 a.m. to around 10 a.m. and the ad now says order your lunch between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m., right? And we will deliver your food the same day between between 12 noon and between 2 p.m. So if you take orders from 8 a.m. to 10, you now deliver between 12 and 2 p.m. Now, what now happens is that you can afford to collate all the orders at once, prepare all the different meals, tidy them up, arrange them, and then so when you now have a delivery guy who is just going out to deliver the meals, he just stacks them according to how, if you want to do a delivery bike, use a delivery bike, he just stacks them according to how he's delivering the meals, and then he just drives once, right? If it's a He just drives once, and as he just delivers to everybody. So if the hotel is the one running the delivery bike, it is much easier, like much easier to handle, rather than having to, do multiple routes. You deliver to the first person, come back to the hotel, go back and deliver, come back to the hotel. And you might want to target a small area, just a small, maybe 5 kilometer radius, from your hotel location, where a bike can easily get to. It may not make economic sense for you to have an order on the other side of town. You spend all your day and everything, going there just to deliver one order, as opposed to just have a small concentrated area. You get maybe a 3 kilometer radius or a 5 kilometer radius, and your dispatch guy can easily just cover everywhere at once. Now you need to decide whether you want to start the dispatch units or you want to outsource, right? Whatever you do, right? It's probably a good idea for you to look at the cost, the financials, and all that. Currently, it will probably cost you somewhere around maybe ₦500,000 to buy a bike. But if you decide to invest that money instead into just paying dispatch guys, you also need to check your profit margin and all of that and everything else. Okay, so now, as you can see on the screen, you can just take one small area. This is a small radius of Victoria Island. If your hotel is located right in the middle of this sphere, you can just take one small area like this, and that's where you would concentrate your ads as well as make your deliveries when they place order. Anybody who places an order outside this, you can tell them that delivery may cost a little bit more, or it will be difficult to implement and execute. Now, you can just do a simple, very simple, single page food delivery website like this, right? And then all your ads, you can now point it back to this particular website. Now, you don't have to it doesn't have to be anything extremely fancy. Just make sure you use pictures that are beautiful and appealing, right? Something that when someone looks at you, like, oh boy, and he will instantly get hungry. Now, the techie stuff. Let's look at the techie stuff. Now, this is where it gets a little bit interesting, because right now we're going to talk about a little bit of technical stuff. But don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. There is nothing to the techie stuff. It's just very, very simple stuff. We'll be talking about how to steal new guests, right? That's going to be the objective of everything we are going to talk about in this techie stuff segment. Now, sales funnel. Almost everybody is used to sales funnel or has heard of sales funnel one way or the other. Now, a sales funnel is just small incremental steps that you take, that you walk somebody through, right, in order to move him closer from where he currently is. So you now gain his trust, right? Gain his trust is a good word. You gain his trust and you move him to several stages until he eventually makes a buy decision, right? Now, if you walk up to somebody and just try to sell him a house and tell him, please come and buy this house, it's 70 million, he may not answer you. But if you invite him to maybe for a viewing or a housewarming in an estate, or something, just let him come and feel and experience the house by himself. He'll start asking you questions like, how much is this house again? And then you now tell him. You now say, okay. He'll now say, okay, so what company is holding the title to this house? you answer. He now wants to know whether there's CFO. So his interest continues. He keeps asking, different questions. The more questions he asks, right, the more likely that he is now more interested in the property. And if he has the means, he would now start considering, purchasing the property. Now, after that viewing, the house viewing, you can just decide to, okay, let me just quickly give you a form, to just fill in your details, to know, as kind of like to start the process of having to buy your own house. So if you have like an estate and you have a row of houses and you're doing a house opening or a house viewing for one of the houses, and you tell him all of these other houses are free and they are ready to be sold, he can just look around and spot one particular house, and that will spark his interest, and you now keep moving him gradually. From the viewing, you give him a form to fill, like an expression of interest form. He fills the form and then he moves on. If he wants a mortgage facility and your company, your real estate company handles mortgage facility, or even your bankers handle mortgage facility, if he goes through the next process, maybe meets some of the requirements of the mortgage and then makes the first deposit, then he's one step closer to buying the property, right? So you just try and just take it gradual, incremental steps like that, until eventually he buys the property. So it's the same thing it's the same principle in our selling, trying to get new guests. Now, in this our sales funnel, I would divide it into just 3 stages: the reach, consideration, and the buy. Now, the reach is more like everybody. I want to tell everybody about my property. Everybody should, see how beautiful my property is. I'll use social media, I'll use ads, I'll use plenty noise, lots of noise making, and lots of awareness. I'll probably reach around 5,000 persons. But people who would want to consider taking or staying in my hotel will be maybe around, say, like 400. These are just arbitrary figures. And the 400 represents about 8% of the initial 5,000. Now, when those people are considering staying in the hotel, what they will do is they'll start asking questions. They'll be asking for features. They'll be asking whether you have Wi-Fi, do you have breakfast. They will engage with your live chat. They will call you. They will ask quite a few questions and all that. So when guests are, doing those activities, or engaging in those activities, they've successfully moved from the reach stage to the consideration stage. They're considering taking the property, or they're considering staying in the hotel. From the consideration stage, they move quickly to the buy stage. Maybe not exactly quickly, but they move to the buy stage. The buy stage, your initial 400 persons may just drop very low to like only 20 persons making an actual purchase at that specific time, which represents about 5% conversion of our initial figure. So the key to having an increased number of buys is very simple. Try and reach many more likely prospects, right? Now, careful with the word likely prospects. You cannot go and sell an expensive designer watch to somebody who does not have a place to stay. It will be totally useless. You will be wasting your time. So if you want to sell an expensive designer wristwatch, you probably need to speak to or show it to people who have the money to buy that expensive designer wristwatch, right? So that's the difference between reaching people and reaching people who, who have the capacity to purchase. You need to reach many more persons that have the capacity to make a purchase, right? As against just reaching everybody because you want to reach, people that much. So once you reach more likely buyers, more people with the means to make the purchase, then it increases your chance of moving more persons from the reach stage to the consideration stage, and still increases your chance of having that movement from the consideration stage to the buy stage. Now, people who buy, you need to be careful with them because they become your ambassador, especially when they are happy with your service. Now, when people buy your products or they stay in your hotel room, it's likely that those guys will now recommend you, your hotel, to their friends. And the conversion rate can be as high as 60% and even over, right? Now, in one of my properties, we had full house, right? We sold all 110 rooms for a week. And the reason why that happened, that transaction took place, was very simple. Only two persons made a recommendation, and that was all. Just two. So if you want to calculate the percentage, I mean that's far, 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 far above 60%. Now, the conversion rate from the people who were recommended, so somebody has stayed in your hotel, he now recommends your hotel to his friend, right? And his friends now buy. So the percentage of percentage conversion of people who would buy would also be much, much better, right? Because your ambassador has spoken. So all you need to do for the hotel, you just need to train your staff and make sure your staff treats the guests right. I'm not saying go far above board or do ridiculous things and all that. Just do the basics, right? Be polite, do the basics, and move on, and it will work out fine. Even if the customer is uncomfortable when he makes requests for extra and you're not able to fulfill it, in his quiet time, he would advise himself and tell himself that, well, that was a little bit too much, and he will still come back. Now, touch points. Touch points are very important. Touch points now is just every single contact that a prospective guest has with your property, right? With your hotel. Now, what's his experience? What's the guest experience when he arrives on your hotel websites? What's his experience when he checks your social media pages? What's his experience when he sends you an email? Do you reply and reply very promptly and address the issue? If he calls your support line, how do you handle it? How do your people handle it? Do you have a live chat on your website? What happens? So, each of these touch points, we need to look at each touch point critically and make sure that we have optimal performance on every single touch point, because each touch point represents a stage that the guest is, right? It represents a stage in the sales funnel that the guest is. For example, we have the reach stage. You would have social media ads and all of that. The consideration stage, you would have the guest interacting with your website, your okay, I think it's in the next slide. Yes, your website, your live chat, your email, your support line. So if a guest is interacting with you with this medium, it's likely that he's in the consideration stage. He's strongly considering your property and he's about to make a buy decision. Eventually, when he makes a buy decision, he's dealing directly with you or your staff, your hotel staff directly. So we need to look at our touch points, our different touch points, and make sure that we are on point and make sure we don't have any lapses, we don't have any bad service delivery and all of that. Now, this is where it gets interesting, because this is where we're going to get a little bit technical. Now, these are some of the tests that I would recommend we run, right? If in order to check, do things like tests for your touch points and all that. Now, some of these tests are not, well, each of these tests have their own importance. It tells you a story, right, of the likely experience that the guest will have when he's interacting with some of your touch points. Now, your hotel websites you need to do like a search engine test. What does the search engine sees as your hotel website? your hotel website content. That's also very important. Now you need to do a speed test. Speed test is how fast does your hotel load, or how when someone is browsing, how fast does what's the user experience like, especially when he has a crappy device and a crappy internet connection, right? Irrespective of the speed of the internet connection of the guest, the your website has to perform at least optimally as possible, right? You need to do a mobile responsive test to make sure that the the guests can see, or the prospect can see and interact with your website on his mobile device. AMP test may not be so necessary because people don't really apply it so much, but I think since you want to be ahead, I think you should probably do an AMP test and do an AMP version of your hotel's website. You need to probably do a couple of ghost bookers. Send me 1 or 2 or 3 of your friends who nobody knows to call the property, call your hotel, and see if he can get a room, and then you now gauge how the service was. You can use that for internal training purposes only. And then you need to have a live chat on your website. I particularly like this because it helps guests to get response as quickly as possible. If you do not have the manpower, if you do not have the staff strength to get a 60 seconds response time, then please just outsource your live chats. It will work wonders for your guests, your guest experience. And also do guest follow-up. Maybe your people in your marketing unit can reach out to guests regularly, especially the ones who are corporate guests, and see how many events that and how many bookings they can accumulate or attract to the hotel. This will help the hotel achieve its bottom line a lot. Now, what can we do today? Action plans as at today, as at now. We can have a digital marketing plan. Now, all digital marketing plans do not have to be the same thing. It's a unique combination of ways to get your message to the public depending on your type of hotel, your location, and everything else, right? If you want to do more of pictures or more of videos, whatever you want to do, as long as it's consistent with your markets, your brand and your market, and it gives you as much visibility as possible, then let's go ahead. Your sales funnel plan, I would suggest we have a little bit more of a digital ad or two. Now, one of the easiest things you can do is that you can take the email addresses of your current guest, upload it to Facebook, and tell Facebook to find lookalike guests. Find people, okay, these are my guests. Find people who look like them, people who are their friends, their colleagues, people who have similar financial standing, people who have, similar businesses, just similar people like that. Now, if you try to sell to those people, the possibility of a conversion will be much higher than when you want to sell to the general public, and not everybody can afford a hotel room. Now, you may also want to run a few hotel ads for things like office lunch and a couple of other services, maybe some of your revenue center. You may want to run different ad plans for it, but remember, each plan is different and it's unique because you need to take into consideration what you are trying to achieve, what you have in terms of your strength, and what you can put together. You get. And please set up a live chat. Like I said, if you can't do that or it's a bit of a problem, outsource it. Also do email marketing, send the guest. Try not to be too personalized. Try not to personalize the email too much. Try and make it as generic as possible so that you would respect the privacies of our guests. Okay, so at this point, we will take a bit of questions, comments, and discussions. If you have comments and questions, just write them in the comment section below, and I will get back to it. I will get to it as soon as possible. I will respond to the comments even after this live presentation is done. Now, I would like us to look at a few scenarios, right? Let's look at a few hotels and let's see what they are doing correctly or what they are not doing correctly. We would run some of those tests that we talked about, and then we'll now see how that works. Okay, so let's look at the Lagos Continental Hotel. All right, so this is the hotel we're about to analyze and review. This is actually the only 5-star hotel in, I think, West Africa. So let's review this hotel and see how good they are so far, search engine SEO wise. Now, first of all, I absolutely dislike hotels that were done with WordPress. WordPress websites are, especially for hotels, are not good, and I will show you the reason for that in a bit. Now, the first test I would like to do is the search engines test. If I want to see what does the search engine see, in this site, what would they see when what can they see when they spider this site? This is what they currently see now. I would write sites and I'll write Lagos. Oh, sorry, the Lagos Continental.com. This is everything. These are all the listings that the search engines can see as they spider the site. Now, bear in mind, right, that each of these listings is a very, very, very valuable real estate listing. You need to maximize the listing you have here in order to make sure that your potential guests, when they see that listing, they are convinced enough to click on it to investigate further. You are able to move from the reach stage to the consideration stage. So while they are just looking around, you just reach them. But once they now click on the site and they're now exploring and asking more questions, they are likely in the consideration stage. It means that they are considering your hotel amongst other hotels that they want to stay in. Now, you can see this listing just has a very poor Lagos Continental Hotel here. And then it has one that just has Lagos Continental Hotel, best hotel in Nigeria. And you're not really convinced on anything. I remember one thing, the search engines hate repetition. So when your listings have many repetitions, chances of your page or your website being ranked lower is very high. So let's see if we have repetitions here. We have a very useless listing here. Meeting rooms, gallery, contact us. It doesn't mean anything. Nobody knows what this means. We have a similar stuff here. Office, Xmas, health and safety. It doesn't mean anything. So we scroll down a little bit and let's see. We have another offers. What was that in the first place? Offers, yes. Offers, Xmas, health and safety. We have another repetition here. Offers, Xmas, health and safety, meeting rooms, which is just not good. Now this tried a little bit. Contact us, Lagos Continental Hotel plot. We have an address and we have a phone number, but it still doesn't really make any sentence. And this is even worse. Admin author at Lagos Continental Hotel. Have questions, and then you have a bunch of numbers and phone numbers and email address, and then you now have hotel logo and a whole bunch of stuff. Now, I am particularly more interested in this one. Welcome to Lagos Continental Hotel. The Lagos Continental Hotel is a 5-star hotel located. Okay, this is much better. This is a much better listing, right? Even though I would have framed it differently. So we have this offers repetition here and here again. And then we have some very useless things here. Slide 2, home, slide 2, 0, slide 3. Totally useless slide. If I was managing this site, I would get rid of this listing immediately. We have another slide 1 and slide 3 and totally useless stuff. Now, let me show you a good listing. A listing that I would probably say is better. Now, take a look at this first listing, right? Chesney Hotels, Rooms from 45,000 naira, updated June 2020. By the way, today is 20th June 2020, right? Now, which is quite a fair title. This is quite a good title because it answers some questions. It shows you the name of the hotel, it shows you the price, and it shows you even more. It shows you the date when it was last updated. Now, your description you have, if BB Niger housemates can trust us for secure lodging, so can you. Then so can you. Then you have free Wi-Fi and breakfast when you arrive. Call now. And then you now have a review, 3.9 out of 17. Now, this review does not have to be perfect, right? But the review has to be as accurate as possible, right? It has to be actual guest review as accurately as possible. Now, here's another listing that is a little bit fair. Gold room at 50,000 naira only. I mean, one glance and you know exactly what is going on there. Plus free breakfast, Chesney Hotel. The gold room has a large room with a small living room with basic facilities like Wi-Fi, breakfast, and a nice view. The room is equipped to make your stay blah, blah, blah. There are some other things here, right? I would have preferred if this was not truncated, right? But sometimes you can't control these things. And again, you have another listing. So now, each of these listings here is trying to sell the hotel, right? With the right twist of almost everything, it gives you a sufficient amount of information in the limited space we have to, spark up your interests, right? Now, another location, let me show you another listing. Look at this. Statement Hotel. Something similar. Updated March 2020. Oh, again, today is 20th of June 2020. Statement Hotel Abuja. Rooms from, they should have been priced here, but again, we have a truncation. Stay in our massive hotels located close to Aso Rock. Call our hotlines to book. Rates are 2020 rates. Room plus free breakfast plus free Wi-Fi. Again, we have reviews again. Now, everything here again, right, tries to convince the guests, right, in the few sentences we have, right, or in the few spaces we have to convince the guests to try to explore more. Just invite them, tempt them like a teaser to explore more, so that once you click on the link, it takes you to the website, and then you get more information and all that. You won't see repetitions on these sites, right? At least we did our best to avoid as much repetitions as much as possible. If we spot one, we'll take it off, right? Now, compared to what we have here when we had a lot of default text and a whole lot of repetition. Now, let me even show you another test. This test gets very interesting. Shores.ng. Shores.ng. This is Shores Hotel, right? Located somewhere in Lagos. First of all, this takes a hell lot of time to load. So let's just leave it. You will see a lot of default WordPress text here, right? You see a lot of default WordPress. Let me see if I can find another one. Aha, there's another one. Default text from the WordPress installation. Here's another default text. Here's another default text. Almost everything here is default text. So the web developer who did this job, he did not take his time to clean up all of the default text. He just left it like that. I'm sure in his mind, see, it's still loading. Eventually it has loaded. If he just saw, okay, the website is beautiful, the boss would like it like that, let me just sign my money and go. Let me just collect my check and go. And he left a whole lot of default text, and it's affecting the hotel in terms of search engine optimization. And if your site has search engine optimization reputation, how are you going to sell? It's not going to be easy for you to sell. All right, let's move to the next test. So that's the search engine test. Let's move to the next test. The next test I'd like to do is the speed tests. Now, this Lagos Continental Hotel, how fast is this hotel, right? I will use Google speed test. You can see the URL here, developers.google.com/speed/page speed/insights, right? So we'll just simply type in the URL here of the website and we analyze. And it will take a few seconds to do its business and it will eventually give us the analysis. Remember, we're analyzing what? The Lagos Continental Hotel, right? So it will give us the full analysis, the full page speed analysis of Lagos Continental Hotel. In the meantime, while this is going, I'd like to also run the speed test for shores.ng. For Shores Hotel as well. Now, Lagos Continental Hotel has a very horrible speed reputation. You can see now this speed test, how it works is this. We have 0 to, it's more like does, so this speed test does some calculation and rates everything in between 0 to 100, right? So 0 to 49 is horrible, very bad. 50 to 89 is fair, average. 90 to 100 is outstanding, right? So for Lagos Continental Hotel, we have a 17% for mobile device, right? Now, let's check desktop device. Desktop device is also 37%, but it's telling me that the website was redirected to HTTPS. Okay, fine. And it's asking us to reanalyze. Let's even reanalyze the Lagos Continental Hotel with the secure certificates. In the meantime, let's see how Shores Hotel speed test is doing. Shores.ng, check out the speed test. 4% on mobile. Horrible. Compared to the desktop is 24. Even more horrible. Right? Now, this is Lagos Continental Hotel. Now, the mobile version is 18%, which is also not good. Desktop version is 41%, which is also absolutely horrible. Now, let's check this other hotel, chesneyhotels.com, and analyze the speed. And on this other side, where we have a horrible Shores Hotel giving us 4% and 24%, let's try Statement Hotel. Okay, coming back to, now Chesney Hotel has 60% on mobile, which is fair. It's not the best, it's not fantastic, but it's fair. And the desktop version has a whopping 92%, which is much, much better. Now, this speed test gives you an idea of how fast it takes your site to load on the different devices, right? Now, you can see the mobile device for Chesney Hotels is a little bit fair, like average, it's just fair. But the desktop the site loads very well, very fantastic on the desktop. So these are the tests that you would want to check. You want to run this test to see how far, what's happening with your site, what's actually going on in the background, to give you an idea and a sense of what the user's experience would be like, right? Now, this is Chesney Hotel. Let's go and look at Statement Hotel. Statement Hotel is also very fantastic. Oh no, there's something is missing. I think we missed the URL. Let's look for it again. Statementhotel.com. Okay, we missed the URL. It's actually statementhotel.com and not Statement Hotels. The first thing we tested was Statement Hotels. All right, so let's see what Statement Hotel has for us. Now, mobile is 57%, which is fair. It's not fantastic, but it's fair. Desktop is 82%, which is still fair. You get, right? But it's much better to have an average of maybe fall somewhere within the orange range and the green range. If your site is in the red range, then you have a lot of work to do. Let's check Whispering Palms. This is whisperingpalmslagos.com. Let's see how whisperingpalmslagos.com is faring. Now, Whispering Palms Lagos on the mobile is 67%, which is still a little fair, and 89% on the desktop. I don't know why I didn't just enter 90%. Maybe we can reanalyze it again to see if we enter 90%. Because I mean, why would we have to stay on 89%? Could have just jumped into 90, so that would be in the green zone, 64 for mobile, and wow, desktop is 91. So again, all of these put together, the higher this your page speed test is, the better, the faster your site loads on a different device with poor internet, well, with funny internet, different kinds of internet connection. Now, if your site is in the red zone, that's not good. That's a serious red flag. It means people will type in your URL and wait and wait and wait and wait, and internet users are not very patient. You know that. All right, so this is our tests. Two very obvious tests we can run so far, to give us a sense of what is going on with the sites. You get? So other tests we can run. I will just probably maybe put some of the links there. There's still the AMP test. There is the mobile. We have a mobile, I think it's mobile compatibility test. There's the AMP test, mobile friendly tests, right? Okay, so let's just quickly run a mobile friendly test real quick on one or two domains. This test just tells us, is this page mobile friendly or not? Is this website mobile friendly or not? Now, while we also do that, we'll also do Lagos Continental Hotel as well and see if, the point of running a mobile friendly test is to be sure that when our site is tested on if it's opened by a mobile device, we are going to have Statement Hotel's page is not mobile friendly, so quite a bit of work still needs to be done there. Let's see Whispering Palms Lagos. Meanwhile, so it just tells you that the user experience on mobile device is much better. Before, websites were not designed to run on mobile devices. You have a page being so wide that it will be much bigger than the screen of your phone. You have to be zooming in and out and all that, and having that really unfriendliness, that whole nastiness. So the new ways to design a site is to make sure that it's compatible with a phone. If you check the website on a phone, it just restructures itself, arranges itself, and moves forward. Okay, Lagos Continental Hotel is the page is mobile friendly, which is quite good. This is quite good. So now it means that anybody who is browsing Lagos Continental Hotel's website, right, would have a not so much of a nasty experience. You get he's at least with your phone you can view the site and you can interact very well with the site instead of all the nastiness. Whispering Palms Lagos as well is also very mobile friendly. Good, very mobile friendly, impressive.